Hello everybody, it's Merlin here, and I have another video for you today. Now, this is the long-awaited review of Dragon Ball Z Resurrection F, or Fukatsunu F, basically Frieza Returns as I call it. Now, I know this movie's been out for a couple months, I think, in Japan, and it was released very limited, I think, in LA a little while ago here, and then it has been out online. I know a lot of people have been watching it, but I said to myself, you know what? I am a big enough fan that I'm willing to wait and pay the money, or in this case let someone else pay money, to go and see this in theaters, because last year I saw Battle of the Gods and it proved that Dragon Ball is still strong. Honestly, in some ways it's more popular than it ever was, in a way. Maybe it might not seem like the merchandise is everywhere, but in a way I think the fandom, at the very least, continues to grow and shows that it has life, and it is still one of the most popular anime franchises out there, and with good reason. And so last year they released Battle of the Gods in theaters, saw it, thought it was pretty good. It was just awesome to see Dragon Ball Z in theaters, and I'll be honest, I thought, you know what, I don't know if I'm ever going to get this chance again, but honestly, like I said, in the years since, we got a new series, we got Dragon Ball Super, and we've got a new manga coming out. You know, we've got a lot going on, and we've got new movies, so it's pretty cool. Now, I got to see Frieza Returns, basically, and, you know, just a brief plot synopsis. It's pretty basic, really. It's a direct sequel to Battle of the Gods, and Goku and Vegeta are off with Beerus and Whis, continuing their training to possibly face off other universal destructive forces, whatever. Meanwhile, back on Earth, you know, people are just kind of hanging out, and we see far off the remnants of Frieza's empire are struggling to keep things together. They said, you know what, let's bring Frieza back, pretty loyal henchman. And they go and they find the Dragon Balls, pretty conveniently, and they bring Frieza back, and Frieza decides, hey, I want revenge on Goku, but this time I'm actually going to train, because he's never trained before, and he's going to gain a new form and fight Goku, but he doesn't understand Goku's got the new God form, Super Saiyan God, or whatever it is, blue-haired Super Saiyan, and a battle will ensue, and, you know, just kind of race against time to basically prevent the planet from being destroyed before Goku showed up. So pretty standard Dragon Ball Z fare, let's be honest. But let's actually talk about the movie. I'm sure this will be interesting. I don't really know why, but for some reason, when I was talking to other people about this, a couple people, people online like Z and Kai, seem to think that I'm not going to like the movie or something, or they didn't like the movie. I think Z specifically said, you're going to hate it. And my one buddy, who was a tiefling, you guys have seen him in some of my videos, one of my friends here locally in town, he was like, you're going to hate it. So like a couple people that I trust from various sources seem to think I wasn't going to like it for some reason. I know for a fact one of them was trolling me, which was kind of smart, because it did lower my expectations. Like, I will say this, to be fair, I went into this movie with relatively low expectations. I thought it's going to be fairly gimmicky, you know, to be fair, you know, I figured it's a Dragon Ball Z movie. Let's be honest, thus far there hasn't been much of a high standard. Some of the TV special movies have been okay. Battle of the Gods was decent, but it wasn't fantastic. This one, though, seeing in the big screen, it felt like a movie. It had a real theatrical experience. They upped it. And that's the first time I can really say that about a Dragon Ball movie, especially a Dragon Ball Z movie. This is the first one that feels like a theatrical movie. It feels like a big action movie, and it's awesome. And I'll start off with that. The first thing I want to say is pretty obvious. For the most part, I really like the animation. I really do. Now, there are certain aspects of how it affects the fight scenes that I'll get into, but overall the animation was beautiful. Really, Frieza's never looked better. The Super Saiyans look awesome. Everybody looks good. It's great. One thing I will say is that this movie has a little better of a balance between the action and some of the drama and the comedy. A little more comedy and lightheartedness than serious action, and drama, which is one of the things that I'm still waiting for. I'm still waiting for a legitimate, serious Dragon Ball Z movie that has real legitimate stakes that we're worried about. And maybe Akira Toriyama is just having fun at this point, going back to his roots, focusing on comedy and lighthearted stuff and in-jokes and just fun. And sort of, the series is kind of almost self-aware now, and it's been poking fun of itself for a while. And this film, I think, is one of the best pieces of evidence of that. There's a lot of that here. You can tell there's a sense of fun, and it really is. One person I took to see the movie, Dan from Film Fanatics, was not really didn't really know much about Dragon Ball at all, and went in and said, this is obviously a fan for the fans, and it's almost purely fan service in the best possible way. Just, it's purely for the fans, and everybody was having a great time in the theater. It was a great experience. But as I was saying, this film definitely is fun. There's a lot of comedy, and one thing I will say is that it takes its time, but it's not boring. It takes its time building up to the plot. We see Beerus training, or actually Whis training Goku and Vegeta far away somewhere. We see Bulma kind of interacting with some of the other characters. What are they doing? Piccolo's babysitting Pan. We see Gohan apparently is, kind of just hanging out, not really, going hardcore with his training. Krillin's a cop now. He shaves his head because, he looked pretty good with hair this time though, actually, but he shaves his head to go iconic. You could tell that was for the fans. Frieza, of course, coming back, and his reasonings for his hatred for Goku as usual. But this film took its time. It fleshed out its characters. It had fun. It had situations. A lot of comedy, but smart comedy. A lot of poking fun at the series and poking fun at itself, but in the best possible way, while still actually having to have some legitimate fear about Frieza coming back. Like, people are worried about it. You are afraid. It's amazing how as predictable as it really is, and we know it's going to happen, there still is always a little bit of that tension. Maybe not quite as much as there could have been, but there was something. I mean, and they even responded, I think, in the dub to some of the people were complaining about Frieza's golden form. Spoilers, obviously that's his new form. They show you that in the trailer. What about that? They're really hyping up this movie. He's just like, you know what? To save the confusion, we'll just call this the golden form. I'm Gold Frieza. Hey, whatever. And to be honest, the blue-haired Super Saiyan thing, it's grown on me. I thought it looked cool in this. One of the cool things, too, is the inclusion of Jocko. Now, I haven't read much of the spin-off with him, but he was the best character in the movie. He had the best lines. He was just really funny, really smart. He was awesome. Like, he kicked some serious... He was freaking amazing. I loved him. He was great. Easily one of the best. One thing I did like is that, another thing that, even though it's not quite the level I want it to be still, which is one of the few negatives of the movie, the other characters, some of them get something to do. Granted, it's the best they're usually designated to do, which is fight henchmen. But you know what? Everybody gets to fight. Everybody gets to use a special move. Everybody gets to take some bad guys down. Hold the fort down until Goku comes back. They're all willing to face down Frieza if they need to, even though they don't stand a chance. But everybody gets to do something, and that's cool. Except for, some people that obviously can't because they're too weak, whatever. They specifically said Yamcha and Chaozu can't come. You don't even bother, you don't have to bother to mention Tien. We get it. We know at this point who can do something. But, yeah, it would be nice to see... Like, the thing I want to say about this movie, I'm not going to say that none of the previous films, or short films, whatever you want to call them, didn't have plots, but they were incredibly basic. This one feels like it has a truly, fully fleshed out story. It's not... it's obviously a story that's based upon years of history within the series and within the fandom, and basing on the characterizations and learning about them. But the primary aspect of the story, as basic as it is Goku and Vegeta finally acknowledging their own weaknesses as fighters, even up to this point, and learning to work with each other and overcome those difficulties within themselves. Because, to be honest, though there have been elements of time, especially for Goku, where he has had to learn certain things, especially in the early parts of the series, about how to become a better fighter and a better person and clear his mind. They had that earlier on, but later on it just became learn special power-up, learn special move, learn Deus Ex Machina this. It wasn't so much about character growth as it was about just becoming more powerful. Goku here has to acknowledge that he's a little too laid back. Vegeta has to acknowledge that he's too prideful and too tense. And if they balance that out, they could be a great team and they'll have to work together. So it's kind of cool that they're actually furthering their characters in a little bit. They're actually trying to push them, because let's be honest, Goku hasn't really had a whole lot of development since Cell at best. Vegeta developed a lot, but then towards the end, around Buu, he just kind of leveled out. So it's kind of cool to take these characters a little bit further. And like I said, everybody gets little moments. There's a cool scene, with Piccolo just kind of gently kicking the crib a little bit to Rocket. Hey, can't be much safer with him. He's a great babysitter. Of course, Pilaf and his henchmen are going off trying to get the Dragon Balls, and they somehow get mixed up in the plot. I liked how when Shenron obviously is still on our side because he hates stuff. You know he's able to bring people back to life in one piece. You know, he does all the time. He's like, oh no, you know, like Frieza was blown up into a million pieces. He can't do that. He just brings them back in millions of pieces. He's like, I'm just gonna screw you guys over. Shenron does not care at all. But yeah, that was great. I liked the fact they got other people involved. I liked the hints possibly of. I thought a lot of the jokes, of course, the Beerus and the food were good. I thought Bulma had some good lines actually. No, I mean it was a fun movie all the way through for the most part, and I thought some of the voice acting was just top notch here. I think Chris Ayres just does Frieza so well. Like oh yeah, that's another thing. Like the dialogue has never been better in an English dub of anything Dragon Ball related. Like it's really good. Like the characters, like it's really proving that the show, even though it is still kind of entrenched in the macho silliness that's always going to be a part of it, it's a smarter show with smarter characters than a lot of people give it credit for. But especially just the dialogue for Frieza to make him seem elegant and sophisticated and pompous, you know, and aristocratic. God, there's so many good lines in this, and you can just tell that Toriyama is listening. We have the Frieza song from Maximum Hormone is his theme in the movie. You know, we've got one of the Dragon Ball themes was the cell phone ring for Krillin at some point. You know, like just a lot of callbacks like, hey Goku, you know, it would be nice if you showed up at the beginning of the fight for once. Oh yeah, sorry about that. Like just so many things forgetting about. He's like, you know, the only reason your mind is so clear is because you're an idiot. Like I just feel like somebody's watching the abridged. Like people, I'm serious. I think that even the abridged series became a part of it, and it's just awesome. Toriyama is having fun, but he's also giving the fans what they want while continuing the story. Now, the few negatives, like I said, the positives were animation was great, humor was good, story was good, pacing was good for the most part. It was good that everybody got something to do that was involved in the movie, some furthering for Goku and Vegeta's development a little bit. Jocko was awesome, Whis was awesome actually, great lines for him. The training was good, and like I said, just good to have Frieza back, you know, and the dialogue and just the interplay between the characters was so good. So in terms of the fan service and the callbacks, those were all the positives. So there are a lot of positives. There are a few minor negatives, mostly minor. The biggest thing, like I said, is the fact that, well, like I said, so supporting characters do have something to do, but I wish there was a little more of a plot aspect. Like, I'm telling you, just a little more adventure to like go somewhere, retrieve something, do something else, a little more complicated than just punching henchmen. Like, you can give them something else to do. We need to have movies that are focused on groups, some big adventure that requires other people to actually do something. It's been done before. We should have a little more of that. Not a lot more, but a little more. I want a little more balance. See some of these other characters. This was not quite the Goku Vegeta show. Other characters did get to have some lines. Roshi was involved, had some good lines. I mean, like Krillin had some really good moments. Jocko, of course, pretty much stole the show. Beerus and Whis, Bulma, you know, pretty much everybody involved got something. But they still could have had a little bit more, I think. You know, and that kind of leads to the issue with it just kind of feeling like it's a decent plot. It is a decent story for what it is, but it still feels like because it's so humorous and because it's so fun, it kind of takes away from most of the actual tension. Like, I feel like it needs to actually build up a little more there, in all honesty. And, you know, it was missing some of the other characters, but I think that had a pretty good concentrated little group. There were a couple minor things, like, I do feel like Gohan, I feel like on one hand, he is being true to his character, and Toriyama is staying true to that, him focusing more on his studies, while still, you know, having that power, but nowhere near as refined. Like, but he's holding back, so I don't know what he's doing with Gohan. It's like Gohan's been pushed aside a little too much. It's very odd. And Piccolo, there was one line, I don't know if it was certain or not, they were sensing Frieza's energy, and everyone assumed nobody could take him, except for maybe Gohan, and Gohan thought he couldn't. I'm like, I don't, the way power levels work, generally Frieza's form this is more nitpicking, but Frieza's forms were meant to conceal his power, because that's all he knew how. He had to actually change his physical form to conceal that. That's why he transformed. This one, I feel like, sensing his base level form, even if they saw he was significantly more powerful, I feel like they shouldn't be able to assume that he's that much more powerful. So when they say, oh, nobody can beat him, even if Gohan was slacking off a lot, okay, I still think Gohan should easily be able to destroy him. But let's say he slacked off a lot, didn't keep up with it, he's not that powerful. I sure as heck know Piccolo's been training like hard, and he has been able to take it down in perfect cell, okay? He could probably take on what they believe Frieza to be the last time they saw him. They could. So I don't know what was up with that. I thought that maybe they could sense beyond it because they're so good at sensing levels. Not really entirely sure about that. Oh yeah, and there was actually one thing that does kind of take it down a little bit for me, and this is going to be ironic. I did like the action in the fights, but that's the one area where the animation kind of bugged me, because there were these moments where, see, Dragon Ball, especially when it gets to the Z section where they get really powerful, it's known for the fast punches and the super speed, which is cheaper animation-wise, but it looks cool and it's what we expect. This time they slowed down the fights kind of like in the early episodes to give you more of a martial arts feel, to show you what's actually happening, which looks cool, but it looks much blockier and stiffer than what you're used to. And especially when it gets to the point where Frieza and Goku are fighting, there are some awesome blows. Like when they do the slow punches and they emphasize the pain, there are some painful moments. But you don't get too much of the fast punching, and it doesn't feel as fast-paced, and that kind of drags the action down. So animation's good, but it would have been in one of those cases where, you know what, going a cheaper route might have looked better. So the action, ironically, is good. The scope is good, but the action isn't quite on par with it. And that's kind of like, I could almost forgive the lack of the drama and the darker nature of the story. Having fun with it, that's fine, but it feels like those action sequences kind of almost dragged a little bit, which, if one aspect of Dragon Ball Z shouldn't drag a little, it's the fight. So ironically, not horrible, but not the high point of the film. So, like I said, I would say those are the two biggest aspects there. Just that particular aspect, right, with the action for sure, and you know, the story could be a little more fleshed out. But for the most part, though, it was really fun. I had a great time watching this. Saw it with a big group of my friends. The theater was actually pretty packed, so I mean, if they're going to be releasing more movies, I don't see any reason why they couldn't release the next one here as well. If this one did well, I'm sure it did better than Battle of Gods. Definitely like this one better than Battle of Gods in terms of, I'd say in terms of just the contained story itself. I mean, it's purely fan service, though. I mean, it almost didn't need to happen, but it was so enjoyable. I guess I should get into some minor spoiler territory. So you guys basically know what I thought of the movie, but I'll just dive into this part because I feel like I just want to try and touch on some things people might think I was a little mad about, but I think I've covered most of them. There was the ending. I think maybe. There was one thing that the trailers for this movie managed to hold out on, and it's not really a spoiler. You know, you could, well, it is a spoiler, but you could, it shouldn't surprise you based upon what the show is, but I'll be honest, I didn't see it coming because they didn't really hint at it at all. I mean, usually they hint at it a little bit, but Vegeta, it turns out, gets to the level of Super Saiyan God mode. So he's tapped into it somehow, from their last experience, I guess. And, you know, he's able to do it. He's able to go toe-to-toe with Frieza, and he actually decides, hey, you know what, I'm going to take on Frieza myself, because Goku, one of the cool things, one of the best things character-wise about Goku in this movie is that, as I said, they were actually trying to develop the characters and have them learn a little bit about themselves. Goku has to stop being laid back, stop being overconfident. Sometimes you have to get things done, stop messing around. He has a tendency to do that. Long history with that. And Beerus and Whis explained, hey, you know what? If you hadn't done that, this wouldn't happen. And basically, he lets his guard down with Frieza, because Frieza once again makes the same mistake that he made when they fought originally. He's not used to the power, he gets tired out, it starts destroying his body with the new Frieza form, you know, the golden form. And so he wears him down, and Frieza has one of his henchmen just go down and shoot Goku, like in the heart, with a laser gun when he's depowered. Now, I will admit, because this is canon now, I think it does bring up an interesting thing that people do not understand, honestly do not understand about Dragon Ball universe and how the martial arts and the superpowers work. But it's important. Goku in Super Saiyan Super Duper God mode got taken down by a standard ray gun. Powerful, sure, but let's face it, this thing is probably like a pinprick compared to the devastating ki blasts that destroy planets and solar systems and galaxies at this point, which you could probably survive. Okay, let's be honest. But the one thing people don't understand, though, is that it's all based around concentration and constantly keeping your power up. Now, you could be as powerful as Goku is, but if he's depowered enough, he's basically, you know, a very strong person. He might not be like, you know, regular Joe, you know, he might be your average human, but he's a lot less powerful. He's much easier to kill, you know, theoretically. It's just something, you don't constantly stay in that state of power all the time. You harness your energy, you power up, you can get more and more powerful, and it doesn't last forever, you exhaust it. So that's why it's not something that's constant. You know, you have to remember. So I don't know if people were mad about that, but I thought that was an interesting little acknowledgement that, hey, if you're not careful, you can be taken down. Kind of stands to reason how that never happened before with Goku, but you know what? Good on Frieza. Also, Vegeta takes over the fight, and he's about to deliver the final blow and kind of take his little vengeance on Frieza as well. And at the last minute, Frieza blows the planet, you know, lo and behold. And they're like, no, what are we going to do? And there's this little doohickey they mentioned before that Whis can turn back time briefly so that Goku can unlearn his mistake. It's interesting. Dan, who I saw it with, said that that was one of those things that kind of frustrated him about it because it seemed like it just kind of was a big cheat. And I don't know how to react to it because I'm like, well, considering the fact that almost every time something bad happens, typically like a death or a destruction of a planet, they're able to wish it back. You know, the whole point is to usually, literally entire plot lines are we've got to go find the Dragon Balls to wish our friends back to life. Now, granted, usually that's spanned over, you know, a series of episodes or chapters so that they do have to work for it. It's not instant. I mean, to be fair, I mean, it's like, it's kind of almost, you know, it is kind of almost worse than the Dragon Balls because it's like, okay, you know, instead of actually having to go find the Dragon Balls, which has become almost arbitrary at this point because they're so easy to find, we have this magical doohickey. But you know what? It happens all the time, so it didn't really bother me. It was there. It's kind of one of those things you accept. Like, and I don't know how this is. It's one of the fascinating things about it. But over the years, despite the fact that this is a thing and death honestly almost has no meaning, it still kind of has meaning. There's always a chance that, you know, it could be final. But I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. I didn't mind it. But yeah, the movie basically serves as its own independent thing, but kind of continues to possibly lead on to other movies, which may be connected to the show. That's still kind of up in the air. It's kind of a different version of things, but yet they're both canon. Still unclear to me. But yeah, on the whole, really liked Resurrection F. I really liked Fukatsunu F. Frieza came back. It was awesome. And his own personal version of Hell was perfect. Hilarious. Because Toriyama said that Frieza is the ultimate representation of evil. So what would the evil man really hate? This eternal heaven, basically, of lovely, cute little things telling him how awesome he is and giving him love and compassion, and he hates it forever. I mean, that is so perfect. It's perfect. It's. I'm not gonna lie. That scene was beautiful, and stay to the end credits or whatever if you haven't seen it or watched the end. But Frieza's Hell was amazing. It was really amazingly sweet. But yeah, the movie wasn't perfect. Still very good, entertaining. I don't know if I've yet to get the perfect Dragon Ball movie yet, Dragon Ball Z movie, but I'm going to leave this one with an A-. I think, like I said, the animation was great, the story was good, all the characters got to do something, there was a lot of fun, a lot of humor, you know, a lot of good things building on from the past and for future movies. Negatives were the action wasn't quite super smooth, and I do kind of wish the side characters got to do a little more with a little more fleshed out story. And I do kind of want to have a more serious, high-stakes Dragon Ball Z movie. I do. I want some serious stakes. The show has been serious plenty before. Maybe that's why they're not doing it as much. But in all honesty, even like there's always an inherent silliness. But there were arcs where the show got dark plenty of times. I want a more serious Dragon Ball Z movie. But for what it's worth, this one was fun. Great for the fans. Probably not the best for the uninitiated, if for some reason you haven't seen it. But if you love the series, you're probably going to really like this. It's not perfect, but you know what? It's probably one of the best. It's easily one of the best Dragon Ball films that there are, and it's pretty awesome. So, on the whole, had a great time watching it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Definitely go see it if you haven't already. And let me know what you think. We can finally talk about it. If you have other questions, let me know. Yeah, but there's a lot to talk about with this, and what this knows for the future. Let's keep supporting it, and thank you, Akira Toriyama, and everybody involved over there, Toei and Funimation. Keep it going, guys. This is the fan base. This is the power of people coming together when they love something. You get it. I mean, it's funny. You know, I remember thinking about this hypothetical scenario of Frieza coming back with his men and the whole army attacking planet Earth, and well, how do you know? I'm guessing a lot of people had the same ideas, and we all channeled that energy, and now we got that movie. All right, guys. Merlin out. Peace. Stay magical.